Hello and welcome back for another Torah Tuesday. Last week we began looking at the first sign and wonder, where Pharaoh demands a sign and Moses and Aaron throw down their staff and it becomes a tanin, a sea serpent. This week we're going to look at the rest of that episode and consider what it's saying to us. I'm going to read from my own translation from the Hebrew, beginning in verse 11 of Exodus chapter 7. So Pharaoh called the wise men and sorcerers, and they also, the magicians of Egypt, did likewise with their secret arts. Each man threw down his staff, and they became sea serpents. But Aaron's staff swallowed their staffs. Yet the heart of Pharaoh was strong, so he did not listen to them, just as Yahweh had spoken. Last week we talked about the significance of using the language of sea serpents. A sea serpent is first seen in Genesis 1:21, where God creates it along with the other sea creatures. A sea serpent is just one of God's many creatures. It's not like a threat to God. But here God uses this sign associated with Egyptian royalty, and he beats Pharaoh at his own game. He's going to do this again and again. Pharaoh wanted to know if Yahweh was powerful, and he is going to find out that Yahweh is indeed. Some readers are really puzzled by this claim that Pharaoh's magicians are able to replicate the sign. That seems troubling. So he calls us wise men, sorcerers, magicians, three different terms used for these practitioners. What do we know about them? Well, the word wise man, it's a technical term used for someone who's serving in Pharaoh's court and advising him. And it's the same word used to describe Joseph for a previous Pharaoh, like an earlier Pharaoh. Joseph becomes a wise man of Egypt, advising Pharaoh. And the word for sorcerers is also used in Genesis to describe what the sorcerers of Pharaoh are unable to do in explaining his dreams. And the word also comes up in the book of Daniel with these court-appointed, specialists that are trying to do wonders or trying to discern what the gods are saying. It's a really fascinating category, and I don't think, some people try to say, well, what the magicians did was trick everyone, like a card trick where there's not actually magic going on, but they somehow make it seem like there's magic going on. I don't see any big reason to go that route. The text says each man threw down his staff and they became sea serpents, not that they pretended to throw down a staff. It doesn't seek to, that. I would think that if the sorcerers were actually using trickery rather than sorcery, that the narrator of Exodus would be quick to point out that their power was not equal to Yahweh's. But instead, the way we learn that their power is less is that Yahweh's serpent overcomes theirs. So I see no reason to doubt that they have some limited powers. That's how they got the position that they had in Pharaoh's court. They have some kind of access to magic. And yet, the swallowing of those serpents by the serpent of Moses and Aaron shows that Yahweh's power is still greater. And we're going to see this in a number of ways going forward. So all of the signs in the first cycle, so this one plus the first three traditional plagues, the magicians of Pharaoh show up and try to replicate it. And in every case, they are only ever able to make the judgment worse. They never can improve it, which is fascinating. So when Moses will later turn water to blood with Yahweh's help, the magicians are also able to turn water to blood. But if turning water to blood is a sign of judgment, then it's fascinating. It would be more helpful if the magicians were able to reverse the process and turn blood back into water so people could drink it. But they're unable to do that. They're only able to make it worse. They're only able to produce more frogs and more gnats. Like they are not able to reverse what Yahweh has decreed and what Yahweh has done. So that is significant. But I think even more significant is that the swallowing of the sea serpents of Pharaoh's men is pointing forward to a future swallowing of Pharaoh's men, his army, in the Sea of Reeds. So it's the same word used in chapter 15, verse 12 in the Song of Moses, where the sea swallows the Egyptians. So this sign doesn't cause any human harm. There's just the loss of a couple of staffs, right, of Pharaoh's Egyptian sorcerers. And yet, the swallowing of their staffs is a warning. We can play this game, Pharaoh, but if we're going to play this game, here's how it's going to end up. It's going to end up with your power and royal authority, the strength of your kingdom being swallowed up by my own. That's Yahweh's message to Pharaoh. And yet his response is not to listen. It says Pharaoh's heart was strong. So you've already heard me talk in a previous video about the 3 different Hebrew words that are used to describe Pharaoh's heart. And here it's the word chazak. His heart is strong, or has been strengthened. It doesn't say who did the strengthening, but it tells us that he's not listening. So Pharaoh's making a free choice not to listen. He asked for a sign, he got a sign, and he's refusing to acknowledge Yahweh's superior power. So we're seeing his stubbornness here, and he is in for some big trouble going forward. So that is the first sign. These 2 videos last week and this week, we've talked about the first sign. And again, although it's not a plague on the people, the Bible doesn't call it a plague. It doesn't call them collectively as plagues. So this fits really well with the Bible's designation of signs and wonders. This is a sign to Pharaoh. Watch out. Things are going to get dangerous for you. I hope this has been interesting. And next week, we'll come back and we'll get into the water into blood sign. Have a great week.